Okay, so I'll try and be quick because I want to give Mark an opportunity to talk about closing the gap. And I think we need an update from Chris on month 3 financial performance, which we didn't have when we met as an academy. I think we need to know. So just a couple of points to pull out before I go through that. You'll see finances in the red section on both the meetings we had. And I'll let Chris update us on where we are now at month 3. We weren't assured about delivering the financial plan in F&P. We were assured about the work that was underway, and important to kind of differentiate about that. What we are starting to see as well is a cash position tightening, and we need to remember that cash pays the wages in the trust. So it makes the financial position really real. We're not just talking about, we've got a deficit of this or whatever. We're starting to see the cash position looking challenging. So we are going to keep an eye on that through the academy, and we'll be getting a report at the next meeting. Quickly on performance, you'll see some threads that flow through my report and through Mel's report, and you've got the full performance report under Mel's part of the agenda. Our performance remains strong. That's not to kind of, there's lots of work going on to improve. We've seen the urgent care improvement plan, and we've seen the referral to treatment improvement plan through our last 2 meetings, and kind of great to see the work that's going on through them. And I think what's pleasing to see is the way we're hearing about closing the gap mentioned in other reports now. We've seen it in board this morning. We're starting to feel that kind of movement across other agenda items, which is pleasing to see. And also pleasing to see the work that goes on across West Yorkshire and across the Bradford place as part of our improvement work in the improvement reports that are coming through. So you've got all the performance numbers in the performance report. Mel's got some in her update. Shout out to urgent care, some great work going on in there, despite the kind of challenges about the numbers we're seeing through the door. Closing. So what we're doing about the financial position, you'll see the closing gap update, and where we've moved from in the academy, soon to be committee, is we moved from seeing a process to starting seeing a dashboard and some numbers, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to see the numbers. We wanted to see the number of schemes, 200 odd schemes, good work, and we're starting to see the forecast of what they're going to deliver. So really good to move from a process to numbers. We're Finance and Performance Academy. We like numbers, and we are seeing that. So really good to see the work that's going on, but we're still in a very challenging financial position. The rest of the reports are there for information. You've got a full finance report under Mel's section, and you've got a full performance report. I am going to ask Mark to touch on closing the gap. It's an agenda item now at every academy we have, and I think we're going to see it as board as an agenda item, but if Mark can give us an update. And then just for Chris to give us a quick update on where we are on month 3, because it's different than you see in the reports you've got in front of you. It's a little bit better. So I think we need to hear that. So can I pass to Mark first, please?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Thanks, everyone. So I'll just to give you a couple of headlines of where we are with the programme, and then I'll come to Chris for the finances. So a few headlines, I think. So first of all, the current position, if you will, in terms of closing the gap programme. Obviously, we have a savings target this year of £38.9 million. At the moment, at the last count, we have schemes totalling a value of £25.1 million, equivalent to 65% of that target identified. Now, there are some risks around that. There are some caveats around that, about the deliverability of all of those schemes. But at the moment, that number continues to grow each week as colleagues get to grips with closing the gap, use the information that they've got, engage with their teams, work with different parts of the hospital, identify schemes, and also to cost up as accurately ideas and schemes. So it's an encouraging sign that we're starting to make progress, as Julie said, that we're now starting to get some real numbers and sense actually of what we can deliver this year. The way in which the program is, we are working from the bottom up. So we are looking for individual corporate directorates and our clinical service units to identify ideas and schemes to deliver some of those savings. And at the last count, we literally have a centralised tracker for every single individual scheme across the organisation. There were 206 of those schemes at the end of June. Again, that number is growing each month. So the ideas are really starting to come forth across the organisation. And again, it's an improving picture and a growing picture. Again, the caveats around that are each scheme needs working through properly, needs that depth of work around what actually it's going to save, needs the impact assessment associated with it, which I'll come on to in a second. But the picture is a positive one. It's a growing one and one that shows we've got good engagement, I think, across the board with the programme. So a couple of things about governance of the programme. We have our programme board in place. It actually met for the second time earlier this week. Obviously, we'll have a routine update here at the board. And I think the other thing I would say about governance is I think having that regular dialogue with the whole of the executive, just to be clear, to remind colleagues, what we have in place is every clinical service unit meets with the full executive on a monthly basis. Sometimes we talk about the whole of their portfolio, and the other month we just talk about their closing the gap work. We've started to see that process embedding. And then in between them, sponsorship meetings, so called. The PSU is paired up, if you will, with a member of the executive team. So we get the reality of what's happening, deep dive, deal with issues, we put the challenge in, make sure we're using the resources they've got, and so on. So we start to see that governance process internally start to embed. I think we've had some really fruitful conversations, and in my own experience of meeting with my couple of areas that I'm responsible for, it's really helpful in terms of flushing out issues. And also, back to the point you made about People Academy, working out where we can support people to deliver this stuff. It's hard, it's difficult to do on its own, but it's a cultural change, I think, for some colleagues. Some people haven't been there before, so hopefully it's a supportive space to help people develop their ideas and make those changes. Two more things, and I'll hand over to Chris. One is, and the last update I gave, we talked about just starting to bed in the impact assessment process. That is now agreed. Every single scheme, so all those 200 schemes that I said, will have a so-called high-level impact assessment done. So we will have a sense of what we think the impact on our people and on our patients are of every single idea on there. The scoring system, if individual schemes go beyond a certain score, and we've established a quality and oversight group comprised of senior nursing colleagues and medical colleagues who will review, first of all, a quota of every scheme's high-level assessment, and then for those that go beyond the threshold, we'll do a deeper assessment in terms of the quality and quality impact of those schemes. And that process is in place, and I know there's a number of ideas going to that group this week. And then finally, just about engagement and communications in terms of the programme. So we will have, starting at the end of this month, a specific monthly bulletin around closing the gap that will come out. And we'll start to do some little video highlights of really good examples of where we're doing transformation, quality and efficiency together. So we're working on that at the moment. We have the intranet site launch that had almost 1,000 hits from across the organisation in 3 days when it launched at the end of June. So we've put all the information, the templates, the formal communications that have come out around that. Hopefully it's laid out as straightforwardly as we can. And we're just working on a really simple localizer to go on that page so colleagues across the trust can see kind of where we're up to with this. And then obviously we've got our forums in terms of both the academies, but also here and a number of other places where myself and other colleagues have been talking about closing the gap at sort of departmental and individual CSU. So it's really starting to come together.
Great, Mark. Fantastic progress. Thank you. Has anybody got questions for Mark before we go to the press? Okay. Chris?
Yes, thank you. So ordinarily you would have been receiving the finance report and the three figures something for the finance report. Trend is significantly improved from two trends, so it makes more sense to take. So at a headline level for the trust at the bottom line, the revised plan, the final plan that we submitted to it, the deficit at month 3, and they actually posted a deficit of 7. That is still a deficit position, just a deficit, but the deficit is marginally lower than. So in that position, there's a points to note. That's substantial items to note, really. It includes £200,000 industrial action. We don't know this year if we get that. Equally, there's a risk around the reported ERF position. Don't know exactly what our baseline for that is. And equally, we're not sure how we're tracking against our issues with getting full coding activity data set. So at the moment, we're not assuming any benefit or do get that. Potentially downside. That's just a couple of caveats on that yesterday. Real news, really. Real data is changing the run rate in month 3. So in months 1 and 2, tracking at 3. That improved in month 3 to 1.5. So compared to that month 1 and 2 average, very substantial. Which what that does, to a certain degree, it fundamentally changes the outlook. If we continue to post through that forecast we've been looking at, being material. We do have to caveat that it's all we can't tell an entire outlook in months. But when I talk about some of the tables on the second page, it's fine. It does give us some comfort. Do think that the changes that we've seen partly or to significant extent really up to that it becomes around the importance of closing the gap really at the start of the financial year to start those run rates within the budget I think on out now. Next financial controls when we knew it was probably going to be delayed in financial improvement measures. We've put in place the variable pay panel, which looks at all aspects of pay requests. So the PRA, bank and agency shifts now. We put in place this executive panel, which reviews all of those shifts respectively. Really, with an attempt to put in place that seems to be better. It's the non-clinical vacancy freeze, which again, some of these measures are really where you would want to be. In recognition that we can make. So non-clinical vacancy freeze we probably won't see the benefit of itself. Taken now to delay recruitment in non-clinical. We'll see the benefit probably in August. The other thing that we are seeing has an impact in non-pay review. It's an exec-led group with input from states and colleagues where certain types of non-pay requests have impact on clinical supply, non-clinical supply. Certain threshold comes to that group and immediately urgent for patients. So these are some of the things that budget holders are taking more approach to that thing and that in that reduction. What that does is probably improves the forecast to like 7 or 8. Just need to highlight these are high level. Look at the reports by the table section 2. Just on the run rate changes, you can see that in month 3 that run rate change it's across the board, it's pay, non-pay and income all improved. Straight line See in the second table on that second page, across all of the departments, and that's where we get confidence that all seems to be taking. It's not just one area, or both in terms of pay on pay income. And then table 2C on page 4. Not quite KPIs, but these are the areas of variable expenditure which we are targeting for financial controls. We put also a lot of the oil and gas programs are this type of variable expenditure. Not at this point targeting things like substantive costs or changing establishments. Trying to target some of the more expensive variable pay. These, as the year goes on, we probably have to, and it's not possibly. These are probably the areas we want to see spend down. And being effective. We have a look at month 3, changing those areas. Extrapolate that for a full year, that would be £4.5 million. 24-25. But we do know that's more work going on. Just a note in there, it's a small number. Weekly payroll for the last couple of months of June, £30,000. That's the back. So that's £30,000 a week, 1.5 million. We've only seen 2 weeks. I had a look at the first week of July. We're just at this stage trying to get sure that what's happening in the basis of things that Mark talked about forecast closing the gap. But we do want to highlight what's in the pipeline here. So Mark talked about the latest forecast of 25 million. That's the risk adjusted cost. Some schemes have a bigger opportunity this year. Forecast for that. We need to 60 or 30% to prevent ourselves health assurance that we've got. The actual value of schemes that people on the job are your opportunity this year. Now, can't bank that, but that's what's risk adjusted down. The level of opportunity to bridge the gap we've got. On a bit easy, the opportunity. When we're talking about a shortfall of £13 million, we've got not £13 million we've got to invest it, £13 million. That's right. So, forecast. To close of conscious of time. We don't have a reliable forecast. To improve because of that monthly position. In the very high level, on a mid case, might be looking at deficit £27 million, 13 million. That's broadly similar to the shortfall. Just referring back to that £46 million opportunities. It's not that we don't have the ideas and the opportunity to reach that 13 million. It's very difficult, even if it's 25 to identify it. But plans are being put in place to close the gap program. So we said right at the start of the year when the plan was signed up, it was a very challenging plan. I think so. So we choose, I suppose, and the opportunity to bridge that gap. Big challenge, so we can't forecast something.
That's a significant turnaround.
I was just going to add what kind of Chris said at the end. None of this means we take our foot off the gas. It's better than my chair's report, but actually we've still got a long way to go to deliver a deficit forecast that we were planning for. And we just need, you know, really heartening to see that messages and what's happening, but need to keep our foot on that gas and deliver the plan we set out to deliver.
I think we should applaud our colleagues across the trust, because
Definitely.
they've listened to the
Definitely.
messages and they've responded.
Definitely.
So, you know, that's fantastic. And please take that message of thanks out to all the teams that we talked. Any questions for Julie, Mark, or Chris?
Just to comment that I would have done in my report, just gone through all that. But we have been party to a review, external review commission IAT, one of its trust, where PwC have come in, viewed a number of people even around this table to ascertain the confidence and assurance in our approach. I think what they will say, given this was 4 weeks ago, is you've got all the bones of a great program, but it needs to be embedded. We need to start seeing the results. I think they were here should be somewhat by what we just heard, but taking the point too late, there is a hell of a long way. I think, you know, when we get the report from PwC, then maybe the purpose of it is there might be some learning from other trusts about things that they're doing that we might get. We're acting as an association of youth trusts in trying to tackle our respective problems. Every trust, barring one, in that association is focusing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I'm going to move it on to Brian on reporting back from audit.
Sorry about that. I wasn't prepared to do that, so I've really got nothing in my mind to say. I don't know if. I mean, I did ask the question whether we needed to do it and was told no, so I'm not prepared.
Oh, right.
And also the phone's ringing as well.
Okay. All right. No problem. Has anybody got any questions on? No? Okay. All right. Let's move on. So, report from the chair is there for your information. It's really good at last time to go out visiting the other trusts, meeting other chairs. So, and when possible, I've actually gone to them to go to the different sites. So, you know, that's been nice to start building some of this communication across, you know, these workplaces, the federation, and then also the wider system. So, yeah, hopefully I can do more of that as we go. Any questions on that report? No? Okay. So in which case I'm going to hand over to Mel. Thank you.
So if I take the report as read, areas that I will highlight. Karen has already spoken in her people report. Like alluded to the work that we had put in to mitigate the impact of that. And because we had slightly more notice than is the statutory 2-week notice, yeah, to take into account our schedule impact, we were able to reduce the number of stops. So there have been slightly less of an impact. But behind every one of the signals, course, there is a patient with domestic circumstances, home circumstances, family circumstances, catered for, and the need to schedule those. So many thanks to everybody who's involved in the planning and the work that so that those patients are. It's also encouraging and worthy of note that our incoming Secretary of State has already commenced negotiations. Good strong privacy, 10-year following the party moving into government. But at the same time, he is assembling his team of secretaries, of ministers, and specialist advisors. And there are some really high profile and notable names joining that team that we will probably be previous years working with concepts, people like Bill Corrigan, who worked with the Blair administration, the confirmation back then, some 20 years ago probably, and notably policy director from King Funds, Sally Warren, who has got extensive experience in social care and really put in some impetus behind health and social care as an agenda. And just today, of course, it's been announced that Lord Aradalzi has been to review the performance of the NHS in the round. Assemble I was going to mention finance, but we covered that. I would just mention, because we talk a lot about constitutional standards around wages, and it's a very binary metric. So we'll talk about how we work, but it won't talk about what we experience. On the June, there's a programme action form that highlighted the findings of an undercover journalist. So showed some horrific experiences, patients attending with the Midlands very quickly. After from Sarah Jane Marsh and other members of the top leadership team in England, instructing and requesting that we assure ourselves, the leadership team and as a board, that those same experiences were not prevalent enough. That work has commenced, and I've asked the quality committee to undertake an assessment. No, Sarah, you're getting out and about, you were able to visit the ED, and I'm sure it was very much at the forefront of people's minds on that particular, and you were able to get actually the performance that we had to try and eradicate, particularly the long days, talking about 12 hours plus, is going a long way to make sure we are not in a position. That is work that we will do, and I will bring that via the court to this thought more further. And that's all of the highlight there. But to go to the ones report, we've heard from our other contributors to the report whose portfolios reflected the results of that. So Renee for people, Karen and Ray for quality, performance that will really take. Or colleagues, is there anything you want to say on those?
Thank you, Chair. Just glad to make up to the short piece of elected. Every month we have a day performance. This will be cancelled at the following month. It will be urgent. During part of that assurance, but also the next steps in terms of our winter plan with respect to the actions we're going to be taking to try to minimise the number of we did do a direct comparison between the organisations that have been mentioned within dispatches and ourselves, and it is, I mean, the difference in our performance is stuff. So we are on that. We're watching it. We have got active plans in terms of assuring ourselves that we minimise any. And in fact, a lot of the work that we do on a daily basis allows us to focus in those areas. Just to call out a few, for example, the daily huddle that takes place. So as exec colleagues, we come together at 8:30 and talk about what's happened in 24 hours in the organisation. But at 8:15, Ray and other colleagues, Karen and our estate's colleague John, safety huddle, and we've got a full discussion around what's been going on. So I believe we've got good coordination in place to escalate those concerns, but we will bring more depth to the and
It's like from what I saw in Indeed, and I sort of didn't think of it was equally good, but privacy dignity were really high on everyone's agenda, more so than some other adult Amy has been in. And I thought the care and compassion that the referencing was exceptional. I didn't see anything that caused me less. I think the pressure point that we need to look at and maybe share some benefits learning from other trustees, the 136 patients that come in, because I don't think we've got quite the same infrastructure to be able to cope with one designated unit. And so, and I actually know of a trust that's got some other things, and Karen, I'll hook up with you on that. They're willing to do a visit for yes, but it was a really good visit. There's some wider work being done about the place around on Tuesday. Our pushback has always been we're not on Tuesday. And I think within the definition between 136 first service and police bringing in patients with mental health conditions. Yeah. And it's hard to can see benefits either way. Yeah, if we can do that. Colleagues, any questions? Okay. The report's really good. Thank you. That moves us on to what assurance.
There are 3 risks beyond the target mitigation day when the group you get. Yeah, one in May and one in June. One in May, risk 447 and simply plan for emergency care and treatment in relation to respect. That has now been updated for the 30th of June 2025. The 2 in June are risk 2509 and 6. Risk 2509 relates to the average wait time for autism assessment. Risk 605 relates to a risk in the haemoglobin oxygen service. In terms of the new risk added to the high level risk register since the board meeting, there's been 1 in May and 3 in June, and all scored at 16. So these are 2542, haemonetics, blood trap, kiosk, and end of line. Risk 605, and that relates to the delivery of the haemoglobin oxygen service due to staffing. There's risk 2509, which relates to the average waiting time for autism and ADHD assessment, and risk 396. That's risk around the provision of stroke service due to a number of underlying issues. So you'll note at the bottom of the cover page reference to an additional 2 new risks. However, these which are risk 810 and risk 1280, they've been combined into risk 2542 regarding the haemonetic blood trap and the trust. Since the last report, there are no risks that have been removed or closed, and there were no changes in score in risk score in May. There were 2 in June, both of which have dropped in score from 16 to 12 for each. That's risk 447, and that relates to being able to adhere to patients' wishes as documented on their respect forms, and risk 39, which relates to filling pharmacy vacancies to enable the provision of a 7-day service. In those just summaries, the details. In terms of risks beyond their review date, we had 1 in May, risk 447 and 3 in June. Risk 447, 396 and 259 have been reviewed and review dates updated, and risk 187 will be reviewed and updated as well. In terms of updates to ongoing risks at ETN in June, Stan shared an update which was provided to the Quality and Patient Safety Academy. That was in relation to risk 221. and that relates to the ageing condition of the pharmacy aseptic unit. The update provided is detailed within the. Finally, with regard to the board assurance framework taken with the trust chair and the audit chair prior to the fact that this appetite statement being presented to the accounting board.
Comprehensive. Anybody got any questions for Jack?
Just some additional context if I may. So, learning from the CQC and the well-led, so we know use theirs with any valid app or a risk register. We are looking operationally at how we have better conversations about the high-level risks. So we did have an operational group called Moving to Outstanding that I chaired, and that was all about CQC assurance. That has moved last month into more governance and assurance, with focuses on risk, on incidents, and really holding the CSUs to account on this side of things. So there's an even better line of sight CSU through to exec. And that means that there's also not just the reliance on the exec reviewing these papers on a monthly basis, as well as a wider input into that. Just based on some of these, I just wanted to pull two things. So one's a really good thing, which is that Respect, which is probably my longest risk on there, is finally sorted. So thank you to IT and colleagues. So this is about having the Respect forms on the available electronically, which is a huge benefit to patients and families and for staff. The second point to raise is around autism and ADHD assessment. So even though this is flagging on our risk register, this also flags on the Yorkshire risk registers and the Bradford risk registers. This is much bigger than us, and it's not all within our gift to resolve. So I am taking this back to West York Place as well. Actually, if we need more resource, what does that resource look like? And how do we then go back around the loop and look at it from a place point of view? That's what we did about 3 years ago. That led to a big piece of work that's ongoing. I think it's become a bit fragmented again. And we're thinking, oh, we have to sort this bit out, and we can't sort it out on our own. So it's a much wider than a big.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Julie?
We had the conversation at the end of QPSA about the autism and ADHD risk and felt we needed to understand it a bit more. So I understand it a bit more from my partnership role, but it's so high on our risk register that when we went through QPSA, there were kind of a link between what we talked about and the risk register, but that felt a bit of a gap. And I know it's not just our risk, it's a real partnership risk in it, but it felt we need to understand a bit more in QPSA about that.
Yeah, and one of the issues that you've got with this is that the people that do these assessments are often people that are also doing things like doctor assessments, fostering assessments, safeguarding medicals. And you've got perfect storm. We've already seen in the safeguarding report that activities doing that, and then referrals for this. So it's the perfect storm of not enough people to do a lot of work that's coming in and is building in from them.
Right, so now again, Jackie, we've got the annual reports, the practice, the work plans, and the committees. It's comprised in 3 parts. First, the board is provided with a summary of the work of the academies and committees during 2024 by way of their annual reports. These are presented at appendices 1A through to 1E, so they cover all the academies, funds committee, audit. I'd like the board to know that the audit committee has also been in receipt of all the annual reports in May. In particular, confirmed that it derived assurance from the academy that they have met their terms of reference, which supported the audit committee in considering the assurances provided within the annual governance statement. The interim draft terms of reference for the academies and the audit committee, these are presented at Appendix 2A through to 2D. So the proposed amendments for these are included in the paper of reference. And the appendices includes the amendments in draft pages.
academies in particular, the board has to note that these are interim arrangements, amendments, and the academy chairs will be meeting shortly alongside the lead executive for those academies to undertake a further detailed review of the terms of reference and the accompanying work plan. And so any further agreed amendments will then be presented to the academies for approval at their next meetings and then be presented to the board in September for final approval. Just to note as well, the amendments presented with regard to the audit committee terms of reference are finalised, and the board is asked to note that these amendments have been made in line with the audit committee review of the updated HFMA handbook. A new version of that was published, I think, in the end of March or this year. The board is also asked to note that the charitable funds terms of reference were reviewed and approved by board. I think it was in the May. So the associated work of the academies and the audit committee presented at Appendix 3A through to 3D. So you're asked to note that any updates made to the academy work plans are also interim and in line with the position as regards the terms of reference. These will also be brought back to the board in September for final approval alongside the academy. Any questions?
Okay. We approved them.
Yes, so if we could, for the annual reports, if the assurance from all the annual reports presented is something effective.
Everybody happy with that assurance? I think you committed a really robust thing.
So in terms of the terms of reference, so we'd like the board to approve the interim changes to the finance, performance academy, quality academy, people academy. To approve?
Yes. And that's in line with the next piece of work.
And this is just approve the work plan as well, associated with the academies.
Are you happy? Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, everybody. Any other business for this meeting? We've got through a lot. We've nearly stuck to time, which is not too bad. And I think particularly we've demonstrated a lot of this assurance through the presentations and the presenters that we've had in room with us today. Been really good. Fantastic reports from the chairs. And need to be really impressed by the amount of work that goes through the companies. Thank you, everybody. There's no other business. Right. Thank you.
Brian's voice.
Oh, Brian, sorry.
Yeah, three things if I can. Firstly, apologies for not being ready to do the audit committee thing. Secondly, I'll have to leave now, so I can't attend the closed session. And thirdly, and this is more for the recording if it's put publicly rather than me, but the sound quality has been really poor. So I don't know if that's reflected in the recording or it's just my laptop, but it might be worth checking that before it's put anywhere publicly.
Thanks, Brian. Okay.
Other than that, good to see you all, even virtually, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Take care. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian. Bye, Brian.